Welcome to episode 17 of our series on the surnames of Appalachia and the American South. As you know, there are thousands of surnames in these regions, so to make our task more manageable, we're focusing on pre-Civil War surnames because the Industrial Revolution ushered in thousands more. Each of the family names we'll examine today was requested by members of our YouTube community. Please note that I discuss surnames in the order that I received them. In case you missed the previous video, I'll post a link to it in the description along with several other videos that I'll mention in the show today. Today on the Vantage Point, we'll be talking about the origins and meanings of 10 common and not so common Appalachian and Southern surnames. I hope you'll join me. Let's get started. Number 1, Jeffers. I was absolutely delighted to receive a request to cover Jeffers. My kids have Jeffers blood in them through their mother's side. The Jeffers people that I've met in Tennessee and Kentucky are pretty awesome folks. About their surname, McClysick agrees with Harrison that Jeffers is an English name for the son of Geoffrey or Jeffrey with a G or a J. Jeffers has a strong presence in Ireland and has been there since the 17th century and the plantation movement. That's King James days. Some sources claim that Jeffers is found in the Scottish lowlands, but Black doesn't include it in his comprehensive book on Scottish surnames. Also, it isn't found among the more common names in Wales. On balance, I think the evidence points to an Anglo-Irish or English origin for the South's Jeffers surname. Number 2, Harrison. We finally arrived at a surname that's found among the authors of the major books on surnames that I have in my library. Harrison was originally an English surname for Harry's son. Harry is a name that produces a great deal of affection in me. My dad was Harry Mac Van Jr. and Papa was Harry Mac Van Sr. Here's a semi-funny Christmas story involving Harry and his son. My dad had one sister and no brothers. Aunt Gladys had 2 kids, Kim and Terry. At family get-together, someone would call out, "Harry," with a smile on their face, and all 4 of us would reply, "What?" The only non-airy man in the house was Uncle Cecil. He was never caught off guard by that ploy, that's for sure. At any rate, Harrison is found all over Great Britain and Ireland. It's the 82nd most common surname in Wales, and it's been an established surname in Scotland and Ireland for 500 years or more. I think you need a paper trail and maybe even a Y chromosome DNA test to determine where your Harrison line began. Number 3, Michel. Wow, here's another requested surname that evokes a good bit of emotion in me. When I was growing up in Oliver Springs, Tennessee, some of the kindest neighbors that I ever knew up until about 2008 were the Michels on 2nd Norway Lane. Their surname was originally an Anglo-French Hebrew name. It's an alternate form of the biblical Michael and the French Michel. Michel is the 90th most common surname in Wales, and it's common throughout Ireland. It's found in the Scottish records as far back as the late 1400s. You know, astute observers would already know what I'm going to say next. I think you would need a paper trail and maybe the results of a Y chromosome DNA test to determine where your Michel line began. Number 4, Hunte. I must admit that I've not had the pleasure of meeting more than a handful of people with the surname Hunte. In fact, the closest I've come to seeing the surname in everyday life is when I squeezed a bottle of ketchup. Nonetheless, Hunte is an Old English word and it comes from hunt or a huntsman. Hunte is a ubiquitous surname found across the Isles. Hunte is the 98th most common surname in Wales, and it's found in every region of Ireland except for Ulster. It's there, but it's not common. Again, I think you need a paper trail to determine where your Hunte line began. Number 5, Pickett. The diminutive ET tells me that Pickett began its existence as a French word. In English records, it dates back to 1086. It means prendre petit, or a small choice. Given its antiquity in English records, it must have arrived in the Isles from Normandy during or just after the conquest. I disagree with online sources that claim Pickett is an Old English surname derived from Piggot, which means small hill with a sharp point. First, small hills seldom, if ever, have sharp points unless someone made it that way. Pickett is not discussed in Irish or Scottish surname books, and it's not found among the more common surnames in Wales. I think we're safe in calling Pickett an Anglo-French or Norman surname. Number 6, Eldridge. When I taught high school in Morgan County, Tennessee, I had several popular students in my classes named Eldridge. One was a good point guard who helped us stay close to the #1 team in the state and we were playing on their court. I won't tell you how bad they beat us at home though. As you can tell from the syllables in Eldridge, it seems to mean a ridge where elderly people lived. But is that true? Let's find out. According to the Dictionary on American Family Names, it's a variant of the name Aldrich. This is an old surname with roots dating back to the Teutonic days, specifically Old High German and Old Anglo-Saxon. It meant old ruler, so old was in there. I think we're safe in calling Eldridge an Old English surname. Number 7, Crow. This seems to be an Old English surname that started off as a nickname for someone from the Crow. However, as with many surnames, they can have multiple origins. For instance, in Ireland, it can be an anglicized form of McEnroe. The surname is found quite often in the Scottish records that date back to the 15th century. In case you were thinking that the only famous or important person with a Crow surname is Russell Crowe, the star of Gladiator and other flicks, you would be wrong. Born in Scotland in 1800, James Crowe moved to the United States where he used his knowledge of chemistry to improve the methods employed in distilling whiskey. He also founded the distilling industry in a wee place called Kentucky. Despite its alternate use for the Irish name McEnroe, it's not found among the common surnames in Ireland, including Ulster or Wales. I think we're safe in calling Crowe an English or Scottish surname. Number 8, Caudill. If you're from the mountains of eastern Kentucky or a student of Appalachia studies, you will have heard of the surname Caudill. According to Henry Harrison, Caudill is an alternate form of Caldwell, which we covered in episode 11. It's an Old English surname that's found in Ireland and Scotland for one who lived by a cold spring or well. If you want further details on Caldwell, please check out episode 11. I'll provide a link to it in the description. Number 9, Maurice. I was happy to get this request. My double great-grandmother on my mom's side was Mary Elizabeth Maurice. She was born in 1848 in Morristown, Tennessee. Maurice entered the Isles as a Norman name, which was an alternate form of Maurice. It was originally given to a person with a dark complexion, like a Moor from North Africa. But that didn't mean that they were from North Africa, they just had a darker complexion. This is another surname that could be from any part of Great Britain or Ireland. Maurice is the 18th most common surname in Wales. It belongs to one of the tribes in Galway, Ireland, and is found in the Scottish records as early as 1396. There doesn't seem to be any other origin for Maurice. While it's a Norman surname, it could be English, Irish, Welsh, or Scottish. It can even be Scots-Irish, especially in Appalachia in the south. Number 10, Langdon. Langdon is another Old English surname that means dweller on a long hill. It's not just English though. Langdon is a name for one of the tribes in Kilkenny, Ireland. In Scotland, there's a place called Langton in Berwickshire that gave its name to local landowners who paid homage to Edward I, the Hammer of the Scots, and the executioner of Sir William Wallace. I think you'll need a paper trail and the results of a Y chromosome DNA test to locate the origin of your line of Langdon. Well, friends, that's all I have for you today. I hope you got something meaningful out of our discussion. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. As always, I invite you to check out all the videos on the Vanntage Point. I have a series of 5 videos on George Armstrong Custer that's drawing thousands of views and comments, like 10,000 views in the last couple of weeks. If you're interested, I'll post a link to the Custer playlist in the description. If the man warrants it, I'll be back soon with another episode on the surnames of Appalachia and the American South. I hope to see you then. God bless you and yours. Bye-bye.